Hello, this video is going to go through a few examples of solving linear equations, particularly solving equations involving fractions. Anytime we're solving an equation that has fractions in it, our first step in solving that equation is to multiply both sides of the equation by the lowest common denominator. So the lowest common denominator is the lowest common multiple of any of the denominators that show up in the equation. So in this particular equation, we have denominators of 5 and 3. And so to find the lowest common denominator or the lowest common multiple between 5 and 3, you can list out the multiples of both of those numbers, and you're looking for the lowest number that is in common between both lists. So the multiples of 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. The multiples of 3 would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, etc. And we would keep listing until we find the lowest number in common. And we see here that the lowest number in common between these lists is 15. So our lowest common denominator for this equation would be 15. So what we want to do is multiply both sides of this equation by the number 15. So I'm going to multiply by 15 on the left-hand side and multiply by 15 on the right-hand side. Everything else about the equation I'm going to write out exactly as it was. Okay, so I've now multiplied by 15 on both the left and the right-hand side of the equation. Now, in order to simplify things, which was our initial intention by multiplying both sides by the lowest common denominator, we look for a factor that will divide out in that numerator and denominator. So 15 divided by 5 gives 3. And so 15 divided by the 5 is going to leave me with a factor of 3. And on the right-hand side, we have 15 divided by 3. Well, 15 divided by 3 gives us 5. So now if I rewrite this equation, I have 3 times 3 times r plus 2 is equal to 5 times 2 times 2r minus 4. Okay, simplifying further, 3 times 3 gives us 9. So I have 9 times r plus 2. And on the right side, 5 times 2 gives 10. So I have 10 times 2r minus 4. And now we can use distributive property to expand and simplify. And distributive property says if I'm multiplying a monomial, so a single term, multiplied by a binomial, let's say b plus c, then I multiply the monomial by each of the terms in the binomial. So here I would get 9 times r is 9r, and 9 times 2 is positive 18. On the right-hand side, 10 times 2r gives 20r, and 10 times negative 4 gives negative 40. Okay, we now want to collect like terms. So I'm going to collect the r terms on the left-hand side of the equation and the constant terms on the right-hand side of the equation. And that means that I need to subtract 18 from both sides. So I'll show that. So we're going to subtract 18 from the left-hand side and subtract 18 from the right-hand side. The subtraction on the left-hand side, it gives 18 minus 18, which is just 0. So we're left with just 9r. And the subtraction on the right-hand side leaves me with 20r minus 58. Okay. I also said I was going to collect the r terms on the left-hand side, so I'm going to subtract 20r from both sides. So we'll show that. So subtract 20r from the left side and subtract 20r from the right side. On the right side, 20r minus 20r gives us a 0 pair, so that adds to 0. On the left side, 9r minus 20r gives negative 11r. And I'm just going to move my calculations over to here so I have more space. So we have negative 11r on the left, and then we're left with negative 58 on the right. And now in order to get r by itself, or to isolate r, we divide both sides of this equation by negative 11. And that leaves us with r on the left, because negative 11 divided by negative 11 is 1. So that leaves us with 1r is equal to negative 58 over negative 11. A negative number divided by a negative number gives us a positive result. So we can write this as 58 over 11. And 58 and 11 do not share any common factors. So this is an improper fraction in simplified form. And so that is our final answer for R. Okay, here's a second example of solving equations. Here we're going to as well look for the lowest common denominator. And here we're looking for the lowest common denominator between 4, 5, and 2. And if we list out those factors for, or sorry, list out those multiples for 4, 5, and 2, we should see that the lowest common denominator will be the number 20. Okay, so that's the lowest common denominator that we're going to use. So we're going to multiply both sides of this equation by 20. Okay, so when we multiply the left-hand side of this equation by 20, since there's two terms on the left-hand side of the equation, we're going to multiply the 20. We're going to use distributive property to multiply the 20 by each of the terms inside the brackets. So that will give us 20 times 2x over 4 plus 20 times the second fraction, which is x minus 4 over 5. On the right-hand side, we have 20 times a half, or 20 divided by 2, which gives us 10. Right? Simplifying things on the left, the 20 divided by 4, 20 divided by 4 gives us 5, and 20 divided by 5 gives us 4. So we can simplify this so that we no longer have any fractions to 5 times what's left here, which is 2x, plus 4 times what's left here, which is the x minus 4. Okay. We still have some distributive property to apply here. So we do 4 times x and 4 times negative 4. So that gives 4x and minus 16. And we can also simplify this 5 times 2x term here, which gives us 10x. Okay, collecting like terms, 10x plus 4x gives 14x. And then to isolate the x term, we're going to add 16 to both sides of the equation. So add 16 to the left and add 16 to the right. And then that leaves us with 14x on the left. Negative 16 plus 16 makes a 0 pair, so that's 0. And 10 plus 16 on the right gives 26. Just for a little more space, we'll move over here. So 14x equals 26. We can divide both sides by 14 to get x by itself. So that gives us x is equal to 26 over 14. Both 26 and 14 have a common factor of 2, so we can divide both the numerator and denominator by 2 in order to simplify this to 13 over 7. And that is our final answer for x.